So the team at Hastings, there's quite a large A-level team. It's led by Chantal, who's our head of curriculum, and then there's a lovely picture of me there as well. And as well as teaching law, I also teach politics. So if anybody is planning on joining us for the politics session afterwards, you get to hear me do this twice, lucky you. Otherwise, we are all available and a friendly bunch of people who will be around to help and support you with any questions you have, both for applying, interviewing, and actually attending the college in a couple of years. In terms of what we do for A-level law, why should you do it? Well, if you're interested in how we actually make our laws, how they actually work, and what they actually are, then this is the course that you should be doing. We look at a variety of different laws across the curriculum, and we work on developing your skills, and part of doing that is doing slightly more fun things. We have mock trials, we have debates, we have discussions about the fitness for purpose of the law, and we take part in some competitions, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail in a minute. If you want to do A-level law, then we ask you to have done reasonably well in your GCSEs. You need to have got at least 5 GCSEs at grade 4 or above. And because A-level law has a heavy writing component, we ask that one of those GCSEs be at least a 5 in English language. In terms of what we actually study, the first year is made up of looking at the English legal system and lawmaking, how we make laws, what judges do, what lawyers do, how it all works. And then we also look at criminal law, and we do non-fatal offences in the first year. That's beating people up or scaring them into thinking you're about to beat them up. And we look at getting compensation. The injury lawyers for you get the compensation that you deserve. Well, when do you deserve it and how do you actually get it? That's what we do in the first year. In the second year, we do a little bit more criminal law. So we look at killing people, and we look at nicking stuff, and we go through the crimes on murder, defences to murder, manslaughter, and theft, robbery, and attempts. We also look at a few more of torts, things that are similar to negligence. So suing your next door neighbour for playing their music too loud. We'll look at that under nuisance. And we also look at contract law. So when is a contract in place and what do you do if it's been breached? The last part of what we look at is what we call the concepts of law. And this is the relationship between law and issues such as justice, morality, and the role of law in society. At the end of those 2 years, you sit 3 exams, one with a focus on criminal, one with a focus on tort, and one with a focus on contract. There's no coursework, it's all exams, provided that's how things still work by then. In terms of what you actually get at college, most of your learning will be done in classrooms. It's currently 4.5 hours a week, and it shouldn't change. Per A-level. On top of that, we expect you to do at least 5 hours of independent study per subject per week. So that would mean that in addition to the work that you do in the classroom with me, there's all the additional study that you do either in the LRC, in the study spaces around college, or at home. It's up to you where you do that. There's no obligation to do it in college if you want to, but we do recommend that you do it whilst you're in college. One, so that it's done and you don't have to worry about getting everything done at home, and 2, because the resources are there and the space is lovely in the Hastings campus. So why wouldn't you want to stay there and finish doing all your work? In terms of what you can do after the course, A-levels are aimed at people who want to go to university. That is their primary focus. You don't have to go to university afterwards, but that is what most people will do after studying A-levels. If you're thinking you want to go and study law at university, law is not a requirement by any university, but most of the universities, including the top universities, prefer candidates who have done A-level law. It's not that they will sit there and take you over and above somebody who hasn't done it, but they do have a slight bias and preference for people who have done A-level law. You don't have to do it if you want to do law at university. It's not a bad idea to do it though. If you are looking at going and doing something else at university, then they really like A-level law as one of your additional subjects because of the way that we'll teach you to think. You are taught problem-solving skills, you are taught how to analyse a situation and come up with solutions. As well as going to university, you can also look at taking on an apprenticeship after you finish college, or you can go straight into the world of work. We have students who have gone on to do law apprenticeships. We've had students who go straight into work as legal secretaries or paralegals, who then train to be a lawyer without going to university. Alternatively, you can go and do any other thing within the world of work. In terms of why you should come and do law at Hastings, as well as being in the classroom, we go on a variety of trips, lockdown permitting. So we go to court, so you can actually see how that works. We go over to the Crown Court at Lewes. We have a trip up to London every year, go to Parliament, go to the Supreme Court and go to the Inns of Court. We also participate in the Bar National Mock Trial competition. This is a competition run nationally, using the name, where you can pretend to be a lawyer. They send us cases, they're made up, but we enact them in a courtroom. We go up to Maidstone to do this, and you are the lawyers, the jurors, the witnesses, and you are judged by a judge in the Crown Court. They award us points, and sometimes we do really, really well. A couple of years ago, we won the regional heat and had to go to the national final, which was held at the Royal Courts of Justice in London. This year, we've also participated in a solicitor's apprenticeship competition, which is new, something that they are offering for the first time. Unfortunately, lockdown interrupted that ever so slightly, so we don't know how well we've done in that. The other reason that I would say you should really think about doing law is just because it's weird. It's interesting and kind of fun because English laws are just bafflingly stupid sometimes. Sometimes they make perfect sense, but sometimes they're kind of mad and you do sit there and go, what on earth is going on here? It sets you up for a really good viewpoint on the world and on the country that we live in. To give you an idea of what it's like to be with me as your teacher, I'm just sharing with you here a quote from one of my current students who sent me this email during lockdown, just in case I was feeling a bit stressed and worried and concerned about being in lockdown. But this is what you can expect from me and from the college in general. We're here to support you. I'm in particular here to answer all of your questions, and I will answer all of your questions. And it is my driving passion to make sure that you succeed. So if you ask me for something, I will do it. If you need some advice, I will give it. I won't force it down your throat, but if you ask me, I will give you my opinion and help you out wherever possible. Whenever I can, I make law as interesting and engaging as possible. And I think this has been reflected by this very lovely email from Izzy earlier this year. In terms of what student life is like at Hastings, it's a big campus. There's no denying that, but A-levels is quite small. We're based on the 3rd floor of the building. You can see there a lovely picture of what the building looks like. And A-levels are on the 3rd floor. You get there and you can just stay on that floor each day, or you can go onto all of the other floors and be with other people doing other courses around the building. It's entirely up to you. We have a variety of facilities and a variety of different things that you can do for enrichment so that we can help you to do whatever it is that you want to do by the time that you leave us. You should feel engaged and supported by everybody on the campus, and hopefully that is what you've got out of these virtual sessions as well. If you want to do A-level law, one of the things you'd need to bear in mind is additional costs. There's not really anything overly excessive. There is a textbook that I ask you to buy each year. That's a picture of the year 1 book. It's £25 or thereabouts. You can normally find some of the previous students' copies on places like Amazon Marketplace for a little bit less. And we'll go on trips and things, and there will be costs associated with participating in those trips and the competitions. Most of them are fairly low, but we do ask you to cover things like transport. So a small cost associated with doing A-level law. That's the end of this presentation. I'm going to turn off the screen now and answer any questions that might be there. If you have any other questions that aren't addressed at this time, or you're watching us after the live event, feel free to send me an email on either of those addresses and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Any questions? Law and politics. Yes, you most certainly can do law and politics. You'd need to do a third subject alongside that, but there's no reason why you can't. You do find that there's a bit of crossover between the two subjects. When we look at English legal system, we look at how laws are made, and when we look at the political system and the role of Parliament, we look at how laws are made. So there is a bit of a crossover between the subjects. That can be a good thing, because what you've learned in one subject helps you with another. How many hours a week will I be studying law? So you do 4.5 hours with me in lesson, and then we would ask you to do at least 5 hours a week of independent study. There's evidence to suggest that the more hours of independent study you do, the better the grade that you get at the end, and 5 hours is the minimum. Do I need my own laptop or device? That sort of depends on how long we're in lockdown. The current plan is that we will be back in college in September, so provided we don't go into lockdown again. No, but it might be helpful. There are facilities within the college for you to use digital equipment there. Within the classroom, you can take paper notes, you can go old school, but if you want to have a laptop with you, you are more than welcome to do so. If you need one for any reason at all, that's fine. You can have it in there, and we can arrange for you to be able to sit. I'm just coming on to that. Written exams on paper or computer. If you use a computer throughout your studies, we can arrange for you to use a computer for the exam. It's the exception rather than the rule, though. Most exams are handwritten, and there needs to be a good reason with evidence for why we would ask for permission to be able to use a computer. It's not impossible to get, it's actually fairly straightforward, but we do normally look for a reason for why a computer would be more appropriate. That's just the rules for doing exams, unfortunately. If I had my way, it would all be done on computer. In connection with the earlier question about having a laptop or a device, I do put all of the materials up on a shared classroom, a Google Classroom. So having access to that is helpful, but it's not something that's necessary, because I will also make sure you've got access to everything on a paper format if that's what's needed. If there's nothing else, then I will leave it there, and hopefully you have got everything that you need out of this presentation. If you have any questions, then you can post them onto the website or send me an email on the address that was on earlier on. Otherwise, I believe we're done.